beautiful people. So we talk so much about bridging the gap in the disability community. So I was talking to my neighbor the other day, and we were actually on the way to the pool the other day, and he was saying that I teach him so much about people with disabilities by just the way I speak, by the way I talk, by the way I hold myself, by the way I interact. And that's a big part of what we do as advocates. We need to educate not only disabled people, but the able-bodied community as well, because as most of you know, we are misunderstood. And I feel like we're most misunderstood by able-bodied people because they don't understand. They've never been around it. They've never been exposed to it. So that's what I talk about when I talk about bridging the gap. We need to bridge that gap so there's no gap and so that we're all understood. So what I thought I would do is I'd bring, this is Jarrell, I thought I'd bring him on video today, and we would just kind of have a conversation, and I would ask him some questions, and he could kind of help us bridge the gap from his perspective and what we need to do to bridge that gap and the ways we can go about it. And he's going to talk about how we met. I'm going to talk about how we met, the things that we've come up to want to work together, and the ways that we think we can bridge the gap. So, Joel, why don't you tell the people how you met me?
Well, first I met your parents, right?
Yeah.
And then his father invited me over here one day to hang out, and that was when I met Ben for the first time. And it's just been interesting knowing him because I didn't understand how hard people with handicaps have it. You know, I take a lot of my ableness for granted, I guess. There's things I don't have to think about. You know, I don't have to think about how I get from one area to the next. My legs just move and they get me there a lot. I don't have to think about how I'm holding my body a lot of the times, you know. And being around him has helped me realize that there's way more I can do to understand others, you know. We have conversations just like I do with all my other friends. I joke on him like I do all my other friends, and he takes it so well.
Yes, and I think that's the number one thing about being disabled. And, you know, a lot of people don't want to be picked on, don't want to be, you know, misunderstood, or don't want to be chastised.
Well, who's not misunderstood in this world? And who doesn't get picked on?
I know, right? And that's what I'm going to get at. You know, so many people with disabilities, they kind of sometimes can get mad whenever people say something. But one thing that Jarrell has really taught me, he's taught me how to give it back to him, and talked about how he interacts and how he's like, hey man, you want to shake somebody's hands, you may not be able to come to them all the way like anybody else, but you can come at them and you can meet halfway and grip that hand so that they know that when you grip that hand, you mean business and you're just a person just like anybody else. So that's what he really taught me. It doesn't matter how well you can move your hand or how well you can handshake. It's just a matter of how you move your hand and how you get that grip and how you show them that you're a man. And you may be a man, but you have a disability, but that's a way that Jarrell can see past my disability because he knows I'm a man, because he's taught me how to grip his hand when we had a handshake.
You know, I see the effort that you put into everything you do. Things that I'm not even conscious enough to put serious attention, effort into. You're very conscious about a lot of the things you do, and you're very mindful about things, you know. And it was difficult for, you know, when I'm shaking his hand, I'm like, hey man, look, we were drinking when it happened, so the conversation just flowed. But I was like, hey man, when I come to shake your hand, buddy, yeah, whip it back, bring it forward, that's what I'm talking about. Shake it with me, you know. And we did that for like 2 minutes until I felt that he had a nice handshake. I'm not afraid to shake his hand anymore. I tap him on the shoulder sometimes so he doesn't have to do a lot of movement. But sometimes, I'm, hey, yo, son, I'm right here. And bam, I make him smack it.
And that's a good point, because sometimes when you have a disability, you need people to make you put forth that effort to do the easy things so that you can be a better person as who you are as a person with a disability. I know it doesn't come, you know, being an advocate and speaking up for yourself is not easy for some people. It's not easy for some people to get on camera to talk to you and to come up with these topics. But if you do little things, the little things like working on your handshake, improving how you move your hands and do things, that will lead to having the confidence to go up and shake someone else's hand, and then that handshake will lead to conversation so they can better understand you. Then once you get to that comfort level with that one person, because it all started with a handshake, then you can start talking about your advocacy and how you want to do things. And then you can start talking to people like Jarrell, and we can come up with different ways to educate the people and to bridge that gap together. And that's exactly what me and Jarrell are doing, and that's exactly why I brought him on camera today.
Oh, I'm talking to him about this merchandise company I want to start. And I really want to pull him in as a leading member of the company, because when I speak to him, first of all, his writing is amazing. And when I speak to him, he's on point with what's happening today, Maybe I walk around and use my arms and legs too much, and I just got to sit down and do a lot of thinking, because this man is so thought out. And, he said something, you said something about how when people push you to do the thing that you wouldn't do. A lot of people are afraid to be honest and real with people in this able community, because it's like, oh, I'm not understanding who you are. But everyone is misunderstood in this life, and the only way you really get to a level of understanding with anybody else is by presenting yourself. And the one thing I like about Ben is I have never seen him feel sorry for himself, not once. I feel sorry for myself sometimes, and just the confidence he has just to keep rolling through every bump, it fulfills me with confidence as well.
And I think that's part of what people, not their problem, but people's issue. If you have a disability, don't be scared to do your own thing. Don't be
sour.
Yeah, don't be sour. Don't be scared. Don't be sour. Don't be scared to get on camera and make a video. So what? If you look kind of crazy the first time, if you don't really know your topic, at least you got out there and you did it, and you showed somebody like Jarrell, hey, he's got a disability, and he may not be able to speak well, and he uses a computer, but at least he does the best of his ability. So what do you think? What have I taught you? What was the number one thing that was misunderstood from your perspective until you met someone like me?
If I'm walking, sometimes I'll go around people. If I'm driving, sometimes I'll switch lanes to speed up if a car is slow in front of me. I spend so much time in this life being impatient. And seeing your level of patience. I mean, maybe it has something to do with, people have to wait on you, right? And so you've learned to be patient, because a lot of times it takes others to help you do something you're doing. But that's helped teach me patience, going to get a drink for you and holding it for you while you're sipping, or helping you out with some of the things that I may take for granted. That's helped me learn patience in life, and I really do appreciate that.
Yeah, well, thank you, because, that's one thing I've taught Jarrell. I've taught him patience, and that's one thing I taught to everybody, whether you have a disability or not. You have to have patience, especially when you have a disability, because if your caregiver or whoever is not feeling well, you may want it done right then. You may want it done right whenever you want it, but you have to think about other people and how they feel, because if they're not good for you, then you can't be good for them. And I think that's what helps me, is being around people like Jarrell and being around my family, because my family has said, look, you get what you want when you want it, but sometimes you can't always get it when you want it, because we may be busy, we may be having to cook dinner, we may be having to take a shower, and some people with disabilities, I feel like they want it when they want it, and they want it then, and sometimes that's not the right approach. So patience is very good. That's a very good point. You have to have patience when you have a disability, and you have to put yourself in other people's shoes.
Even if you can't walk in them.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
You see, that's sure. It might have felt like a little jab at him, right? Like, hey man, take a day to walk in my shoes, and he's like, never gonna happen, buddy. But that's part of the back and forth. I think one thing that's really missing within the bridging of the gap is a certain level of honesty. So what if I offend him? If I offend him as his friend, that's a much better offense than he's ever going to get from a stranger offending him. And at least when we have the connection of being friends, he can be like, hey, that one right there kind of hurt. And I'm
Yeah.
okay, so tell me why, you know? We can get through a lot of the misunderstanding by not being afraid to approach some issues.
Yeah, but see, and that's also another thing. By Jarrell defending me, making me feel a little uncomfortable, and me having to tell him that, by me letting him do that, and by me not getting mad. So when somebody takes a jab at me in public, or when I'm at work, or something that I don't know, I'm able to handle it. But I feel like if you don't allow people to take jabs at you and learn how to handle it yourself,
how are you gonna have a good defense if you've never had to take a jab?
You got to know how to defend yourself.
Punching bags don't punch back.
But yeah, because your parents, your caregivers, none of them are going to be around forever. You got to learn how to defend yourself and stand up for yourself, because that's the number one rule of advocacy. Someone will take you more serious if you can stand up for yourself and say what you feel and say how you feel. And I think that's part of why Darrell and people like that, they take me serious, because they know I'm a nice guy, but they know I don't take no shit.
Hey, look, he has a very good heart, but he's also assertive and at times even slightly aggressive.
Yeah.
Now, he doesn't get mad at me for the things I don't understand, but he does speak up so that things can be understood.
And so that we can educate. And I feel like if more parents out there would allow their kid to speak up for themselves and handle their own issues and be like, well, I don't know if Johnny will be able to handle this. I don't know how Johnny will feel. You don't worry about how Johnny feels. You let that person talk to him that way, and then if Johnny feels a certain way, you teach Johnny. Like Jarrell will be like, man, hey man, why'd you let him talk to you that way? Or come at it with this approach. Don't be aggressive, or come at it with this approach. Think about it this way. You give them advice, but you don't speak for them. You let them fight their own battles, but you give them suggestions on how to handle it, but you let them speak for themselves. Because if you go as a parent or as a caregiver, if you go it that way, they're not going to take them serious, and they're going to keep pushing them around, and they're not going to get what they want and what they deserve in the world.
Oh, I don't jump in the ring and throw punches for him, and I don't throw in the towel when he's getting beat up. But when that bell ding and he come back to that corner, I'm his corner man. Hey look, bro, check it out. You got to dodge that jab, because they get jabbing. You got to dodge that jab. I can definitely be his corner man. I ain't got to fight his battles for him. I can just let him know what his weaknesses are, so when he get back in that ring with anybody who's in the with, he knows how to dodge and slip one in.
So why do you think parents and individuals like you who don't understand, why do you think they're scared to ask questions?
Because they don't want to offend you. They don't want to offend you with their amount of misunderstanding. It's like learning a foreign language. If someone says something, and sometimes you might just nod your head so that, things can be smooth, rather than being like, oh, I didn't hear you, I don't understand you. Because people get frustrated when they feel like they're misunderstood, or when they're not being understood, And some people, instead of bridging the gap to understand, they just stand on this side of the cliff and wave at you from their side. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So what do you think I can do, or other people with disabilities can do, to help bridge that gap if they're not as outgoing and as assertive as I am, and as forceful as I am, should I say, for lack of a better word?
Invite uncomfortable conversation. Also,
you hear that, parents? For the people that can't speak, invite. What'd you say?
Invite uncomfortable conversation.
Invite it. Don't dodge it. Invite it. Talk about it.
Right, and also, every disabled person is ultra able when it comes to something, and you gotta help them find. Hey, look, most people can't do this at all. They fail at this all the time, and you do this with ease. So yeah, your legs might not work, but your mind does, your heart does, your mouth does. And these are the things that are strengths.
And you know why I am able to do that is because of my parents and people around me, like Amanda, Darrell. They don't speak up for me. They may give me advice on what to say or how to handle it, but they don't do it for me. And that's the number one key. If you want to be an advocate and you want to stand up for yourself, you have to do it. No one else can do it. And so what? If somebody gets mad about your approach, say what you feel and say what you mean.
But also listen, because, look, it's kind of the same thing about being black in America. Sometimes you feel that things might be racist or things might not be set up for you to succeed, and you have a right to feel however you feel. But also, you have a responsibility to find other perspectives to understand how to widen your own horizons.
I like that. We are responsible for our own actions and the way we perceive a situation.
Oh, look, man. You know, most of your pain in life comes through the narrative that you give it. Oh, people keep stepping on me. They don't appreciate me. Yada yada. Once you change the narrative, the situations and events fall into place in a different way. You got to change the narrative that you're giving yourself and see the world in a better outlook.
And I seriously think that's what parents have to do. They have to change their narrative. But so many parents are stuck in their ways, and they want to do everything for them, and they're worrying about, oh, well, what if Johnny gets offended by what someone says?
So why do you think that is, that parents are too protective over their hands? I mean, parents are protective over their children anyways.
Yeah, but I think it's more so with people with disabilities because they don't want to see them hurt. They don't want to see them go through pain because they feel like they don't know how to understand it because they're different. So they feel like they're gonna get it their whole life. But one thing my dad taught me: you're gonna go through pain, you're gonna go through hurt, you're gonna go through things that's uncomfortable. But at the end of the day, it will make you a better person and it will make you understand life better and different. And then you can educate someone else. And I think that's part of what has made me the advocate I am is because I'm so strong and I'm so tough in my skin. It don't bother me.
You're so strong and you're so tough?
Yeah.
What makes you strong and tough?
By not allowing people to run over me.
People run over you? You the one in the wheels?
Yeah. But I do know how to use that to my advantage too. If I have to, I will use my wheels not to hurt somebody, but I will put them in their place to where, hey, if you hit me, I'm gonna hit you back. And I think that's what's wrong with the disability community as well. They don't know how to use their abilities as well as they can because their parents are too protective. Like me, I know I can't physically hit you, but I'm going to say some things to make you stop and think. And it may not be the right thing to say.
Oh, no, but hey, look, the tongue is a sword.
Yeah. And that's one thing my other caregiver told me. She's like, Ben, you got to stand up for yourself. You got to say what you feel and mean what you say. And I think you got to find your ability, whether it be your arms, your legs, your mouth. Me, it's my mouth. And that's part of the reason why I make these videos is not only to educate because, yeah, I'm a cool guy. I do cool things, but it's because I'm an advocate and I stand up for myself.
He's a very cool guy. And maybe that's one of the reasons why we get along so well. He's one of the coolest people I've met. Despite his wheelchair, despite his hands, despite his stutter, he's one of the coolest people I've met. And you know, when I can just recognize him for being a cool person, everything else falls in line and just settles down. Because we all have differences. We're all misunderstood. No one will ever understand any of us. And how can they? We keep evolving and changing as we grow. But this man right here has done some growing.
So what does that mean, people? We have to evolve and understand and have conversation and be real and speak what we feel. And that's what Jarrell has said the whole time in this video. So, how do you think what is something that you can take away that people need to know that aren't disabled? How can they start the conversation if they're not comfortable with maybe going up and speaking to somebody for the first time? If you never met me, how would you approach the conversation?
Well, one of the things I did was I asked you, why were you disabled? You know? I didn't know if it was from an accident, if you were born with something. I didn't want to assume anything. And yeah, I was a little uncomfortable asking you about your disability, but I felt like for me to get to know you better, I would have to know some of the things you've been through. And to find out, oh man, you know, I've always been in this chair. And it's like, damn, man, like, how has life been? And just listening to him tell me, and I'm like, well, I've never had to deal with those problems. Not a single time. And I think my life is so hard, and here I am crying elephant tears for my life when I wouldn't trade mine for his too quickly.
So parents, no matter whether you have a son or they use a wheelchair, they can't speak. Life is difficult for everyone, disability or
Man.
not. But if you stand up for yourself and you speak what you feel and you go at it with that passion of advocating for your son or your daughter and letting them have the ability to do what they can on their own level.
Mm-hmm. It's being actualized.
There you go.
Okay.
There you go. I like that word. Yeah, I like
Having a form of helping others actualize so they can become the highest version of themselves.
Yes.
And don't think just because they're disabled that there isn't a high version from him. Yeah, he might not be able to walk, but I've seen him levitate a few times.
Yeah, I've done some pretty crazy shit. I'm pretty crazy. So, I want to ask you one more question.
Feel free.
How has life changed since you met me? Not only meeting me, but how do you look at life now that you met me? And how would you approach someone else with a disability now that you met me in a way that you wouldn't before?
I wouldn't be as scared to offend them with my honesty, right? I think I've held back from conversations and from situations with disabled people just because I felt like maybe I might say the wrong thing or I might not be advocacy enough, you know? Like, oh man, that guy didn't hold the door. And okay, well, sorry, I didn't know if you could get the door yourself. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I don't always want to help disabled people too often because some disabled people get mad when you try to do, hey, look, I got it. You don't got to hold the door for me. It's like,
Well, I mean,
shit, I was trying to help.
Yeah.
But sometimes trying to help can hurt because when you protect others too much, it makes them weak. And one of the things that I would take from meeting you is protecting doesn't work as well as learning and teaching.
Yes, and I think that, see, he just said they're angry, they're upset because I got it. They're always trying to prove a point because they've been protected so long. They don't know how to handle it, so they come off rude. But if you teach them how to advocate and stand up for themselves, then we can all get along and they won't be rude and we can have more of an understanding of each other.
Hey, but I'll check your rudeness right there. It's like, hey, buddy, I'm holding the door for you. Just say thank you and roll your ass through, all right? I'll check you right there.
Exactly.
It's like you tried to check me. Hey, keep it rolling.
Yeah, we all have to be checked. But the number one thing of this video is we can't take everything as they're being mean or they're
Everything's not face value.
Yes,
People are
yes,
much more deep
yes.
than that, you know?
Yes, and one thing that bothers me as a disabled person when I'm at work, when I'm out in public, or when I'm
People not letting you do your damn job.
Yes, or when I'm with Jarrell and then somebody will have a kid and the parent, they'll want to ask a question if they're little and the parent will direct them away. Don't do that.
Don't like it being rude, you know? Like, calm down. Like, don't be asking him about his wheelchair and stuff. And it's like, I had a moment with them to make them understand. And you just told them that I was disabled and who I am as a person. Not the chair, not the legs, but that I can't even speak up for myself.
And that's the way we're going to change this world, is by letting the kids of the next generation interact with people with disabilities. So if you have somebody out there that don't understand the disability and they're 4 or 5 years old, don't jerk them away from the chair. If he said, hey, why does his finger look weird? Don't be like, don't say that, that's rude. No, you let me explain them. Or if I'm busy and Jarrell overhears them, let them talk to them. Don't jerk them away from the conversation.
No, let the kid ask.
Because that's the only way we're going to educate the next generation.
We got to start with the children, and you know, if there were more parents who did like charities with their children when it comes to like handicap advocacy, it shouldn't take me till I'm 35 to get this level of understanding. Okay.
Yes. So, what do you think a person with a disability needs to do when, I know you work out a lot, so if they're trying to work out or they're trying to do something that they're not used to doing, if you're able-bodied, how would you tell them to approach the situation?
Step by step. Mm-hmm.
Step by step.
Step by step. Just like I didn't expect for you to get the handshake down the first time we did it, or to get the smacking hands, you know what I'm saying? But as I came through, I worked with you on it, and they saw at the beginning they saw at the beginning. We have a pretty clean handshake now. We smack hands, you know? Take it step by step. If you're trying to reach for something You gotta realize your muscles aren't being used the same way, and you've got to strengthen some parts of your body that may be a little weaker, but that only comes with doing. It doesn't come with letting others always do for you.
Yeah, so it doesn't matter if you're being an advocate, if you're learning to speak up for yourself, if you're learning to, educate people, it has to take step by step. But yeah, so that's pretty much how we're going to end the conversation. So what would you say to somebody that first watches this video who don't understand who I am, who's able-bodied? What would you tell them?
This is my friend. This is Crazy Wills. This is Ben Oxley. And I'll hold a burger while he bite it. I'll hold a drink while he sip the straw. Like, I don't view him too different from my other friends. Yes, sure. If we're going somewhere, we might have to make special accommodations for him, right? But his presence is so worthwhile that I'm learning to be patient to allow others to move forward.
That's awesome. Well, that's all we have today. I was just going to come on here and kind of let Jarrell introduce himself and give you guys a different perspective, a bit bridging that gap. So yeah, when you guys, like I said, when you guys tune into this channel, you're not just tuning into a YouTube channel of somebody doing crazy things or somebody just doing something.
Not that he's not crazy. Don't let him confuse you. He is a little crazy.
Yeah. So by you tuning into this, you're creating this movement and you're helping change the perspective of people with disability, able-bodied people as well. So we'll see you guys soon.